You just saw the sky split into colors. No paint, no screen, just light, water, and air. And for a moment, the whole world looked like magic. But it isn't magic. It's something stranger. It's something hiding in every raindrop, waiting for the sun to find it. Think about the last rainbow you saw. Maybe it was after a storm. Maybe it was near a waterfall, or even in the spray from a garden hose. It seemed to appear out of nowhere. One minute, gray clouds. The next, a perfect arc of red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and violet. You probably wondered how something so precise could form by accident. It didn't. It follows rules. Ancient rules, written into light itself. To understand a rainbow, you first have to understand what sunlight really is. It looks white. It looks plain, ordinary, uninteresting. But that white light is a disguise. Hidden inside it are all the colors you can see, blended together so perfectly that your eyes can't tell them apart. Red is in there, so is blue, so is every shade in between. White light is not one thing, it's everything, all at once. So, how do we unlock it? How do we pull the colors apart? The answer starts with a scientist named Isaac Newton, working alone in a darkened room in the 1660s. He took a beam of sunlight and passed it through a triangular piece of glass called a prism. And something remarkable happened. The light didn't stay white. It spread out into a full band of colors, exactly like a rainbow, right there on his wall. Newton had proven that white light was made of many colors, bent by the glass at slightly different angles. Red bent the least, violet bent the most. Everything else lined up in between. Now imagine that prism isn't made of glass. Imagine it's made of water. A single floating raindrop, round and clear, hanging in the air after a storm. Sunlight hits that raindrop, and just like Newton's prism, it bends. But a raindrop doesn't just bend light once. It does something even more interesting. Here's what happens, step by step. Sunlight enters the raindrop and bends slightly as it moves from air into water. That's called refraction. It's the same reason a straw looks bent when you put it in a glass of water. The light is slowing down and changing direction as it crosses into a new material. Once inside the raindrop, the light travels forward until it hits the back wall, the inside surface of the droplet. And instead of passing straight through, it bounces. It reflects backward, like a tiny mirror hidden inside the water. Then, as the light exits the front of the raindrop again, it bends one more time. Two bends and one bounce. That's the whole trick. But why does this create colors instead of just white light bouncing back? This is where things get beautiful. Because each color of light bends by a slightly different amount, the two bends inside the rainbow don't just redirect the light, they sort it. Violet light bends the most and comes out at one angle. Red light bends the least and comes out at a different angle. Every color in between lines up perfectly, spreading out into the same order that Newton discovered with his prism. Red on the outside, violet on the inside, and every other color arranged in between, exactly the same way, every single time. Now here's something almost nobody realizes. A rainbow isn't actually a solid arc hanging in the sky. It's not a place. It's an angle. Every raindrop that's positioned at exactly the right angle relative to you and the sun bends its light straight into your eyes. Millions of raindrops, each one sending you a tiny signal of color, but only from the ones lined up just right. Move a few steps to the left, and a different set of raindrops lines up instead. That's why a rainbow always seems to move when you do. It's not really there in one fixed spot. It's a pattern made just for your eyes, in that exact moment, from that exact position. Nobody else standing next to you is seeing the same rainbow. They're seeing their own, built from their own angle, their own raindrops. Doesn't that change how you think about it? A scientist named René Descartes, working decades before Newton, was one of the first people to work out the geometry behind this. He used mathematics and careful experiments with glass spheres filled with water to show exactly why the rainbow always appears at the same angle from the sun, roughly 42 degrees. That number explains something you've probably noticed without knowing why. Rainbows always appear opposite the sun. If the sun is behind you, the rainbow forms ahead of you. That's not a coincidence. It's geometry, locked into the physics of every raindrop in the sky. So, what about the colors themselves? Why red on the outside and violet on the inside? Always in that same order. It comes down to something called wavelength. Light travels in waves, and each color has its own wavelength, its own rhythm. Red light has a longer, slower wave. Violet light has a shorter, faster one. When light enters a raindrop, longer wavelengths and shorter wavelengths bend by different amounts, almost like runners taking slightly different paths around the same track. Red finishes on the outside edge. Violet finishes on the inside edge. Every color in between finds its own lane, in the same order, every time, in every rainbow, anywhere in the world. Sometimes, if you look closely, you might spot a second, fainter rainbow above the first one. That's called a double rainbow, and it happens when light bounces twice inside the raindrop instead of once. That extra bounce flips the color order. So the second rainbow shows violet on the outside and red on the inside, upside down compared to the first. A researcher named Raymond Lee, who spent years studying the physics of atmospheric optics, has shown just how sensitive these reflections are, and how rare it is to see the full range of colors in both bows at once. It takes remarkably clean air, the right size of raindrops, and a very precise angle of sunlight, all lining up together. Isn't it strange to think that something this delicate happens almost every storm? You don't need a storm to see one, though. Rainbows appear anywhere light passes through droplets of water at the right angle, in the mist above a waterfall, in the spray from a garden hose on a Sunday afternoon, even in the fine droplets kicked up by ocean waves. Wherever there's sunlight and water hanging in the air just right, the same simple trick repeats itself. Two bends, one bounce, and a whole spectrum unlocked. Different cultures have looked at this same phenomenon and told very different stories about it. Some saw it as a bridge between two worlds. Some saw it as a promise, a sign, a message from the sky. For a long time, it seemed like something only gods or spirits could create. But rainbows aren't a message from anywhere else. They're a message from right here, from ordinary raindrops doing exactly what physics has always told them to do. And maybe that's the real surprise. The colors were never hidden away in some separate place, waiting to be released. They were inside the sunlight the entire time, riding along, invisible, blended into something that only looked plain and white. All it ever took to reveal them was a raindrop, angled just right, patient enough to bend the light twice and let each color find its own way out. So, the next time the sky splits into color after a storm, you'll know exactly what you're looking at. It's not magic, not a message from somewhere else, just millions of tiny raindrops, each one holding a piece of sunlight, each one sorting it, color by color, and sending it straight to your eyes from an angle made just for you.